Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello and welcome to the ZOE on Campus conversation. It's a space for featuring artists, authors, and activists who inspire progressive Christian life on campus and beyond. Today, we welcome John Francis O'Mara, Irish American singer songwriter in the alt country Americana folk rock traditions, exploring social justice theology, hope, and heartbreak on his new album, Forbidden Hymns. Welcome.
Thank you.
We are trying to have the kind of conversations that can inspire and inform young people as they pursue their discernment of like God's call in their life, their vocation, their artistic and creative practices, their capacity to mobilize others for goodness in the
Mm,
world. And so when we're talking with artists, we'd be interested to hear a little bit more about the story of your first kind of awakening to your vocation, maybe
mhm,
particularly as a musician. I know you've got other elements in your life that you might
mhm,
talk about as well. What were
mhm,
your influences and who were your heroes? How did you find your way into
mhm,
this
mhm.
life?
Music has always been pretty central to my culture of my family, my, like, immediate family. Mom and dad are both singers, and dad's a songwriter, guitar players. Mom also plays piano. They both have these huge voices. And so I don't remember not having music in my life. Probably my earliest memories are of them playing in church, leading music in church. And then also at home, it was just always in the air that we breathed. So as far as heroes go, I got to say mom and dad first, right?
Yeah,
And just a quick plug, my dad, he goes by John Marr, M as in Mary, AHER, and I'm producing his new record coming out soon. So I got to plug it. I got to. All the times that he's promoted me, I got to give back. But as far as vocationally, right? I remember playing original songs at around age 12 in the church to
hmm
a packed out church. I hadn't yet started playing guitar. I was about to in like the coming year or two, but I would bring my songs to my dad and he would find the guitar parts, and then we did these public performances in church and other places too, like coffee houses. And I think I played at the firehouse one time, or like the mall, which was a big thing in the 90s.
absolutely. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the high school marching band would go and march around the mall like way too early in the morning
Wow.
in our town. Yeah.
Did it ever crumble to the ground? Well, so I remember doing that, and I remember before going on the platform in front of the church, right? I'm not gonna call it a stage, but I guess when you're doing a public performance, it was a stage, and feeling this sense of calling in a very visceral kind of way, like I could feel it in my body, like my face was burning, and I imagine like the charismatic folks or the Pentecostals would call that the touch of the Holy Spirit. I might even call it that. And the sort of intuition that I had, the affirmation that I had at that moment, again, very young, like 13, I thought this is exactly what I need to be doing. And that for me was the cross section, like the nexus of public um performance of my own songs, so songwriter vocation, storytelling vocation. And then also, even then I was very outspoken and bold about speaking against racism and poverty, and like a social consciousness that I feel like I must have inherited from generations of Irish people shaking fists at the empire. But I also can't remember a time when I didn't feel like that, when I felt a deep resonance with marginalized people and people of color. And to this day, I'm still living out that sense of calling that I felt at that age. Now, it took me a long time to get to a point where I felt really comfortable. Well, maybe I'm still not comfortable, but I'm way less ambivalent about like my role as an ordained person too. I'm an Episcopalian priest, and I'm a liberation theology. I'm pursuing my doctorate now at Howard University Divinity School, which is a HBCU. I'm getting a doctorate in theology and social justice. And that's all of that seminary Princeton Seminary and then General Seminary and then Howard and then ordination. All of that was after like 18 years of touring and playing, learning in the School of Hard Knocks and Life on the Road, which is a wonderful place to be tempered and to stare directly into the face of who am I really? Who does God want me to be? Who has God made me to be? Where does my joy and bliss and passion meet the world's deepest needs? And I think that I forget who said that. That a theologian said that. You know, your calling is where your deepest bliss meets the world's deepest needs. And I think that's a wonderful definition. I've been working out my calling with fear and trembling, but lately with a lot more joy and like extravagant hope. It's interesting. Like for all appearances, the outside world in our nation is getting more visibly cruel and like blatantly brutal and inhumane. And for some reason, the challenge of all that adversity to goodness and justice and love has really made my calling come into stark contrast and like it's energized me. And I just spoke for about a half an hour after you asked one question. So I'm gonna pass it back to you. My heroes of my youngest days, I gotta say Keith Green, huge one, and who knows where his, sort of socio-political, views would land right now in this context today. I have a feeling that, he would lean a little more conservative than I do. Most people do. Um, but Keith Green, his passion, his conviction, it was not art for art's sake for him, although he could dance circles around almost any singer or piano player, right? Guys like him, and then of course Bob Dylan. The Dylan bridge is a bridge that every singer-songwriter I think needs to cross. And then, Johnny Cash. At an early age, I was listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary. All people who have a social consciousness, and that emerges in my records and my songwriting and definitely my public performances quite a bit. I also write like some really punch you in the gut, like sad heartbreak love songs. So it's not that I sit down and say, oh, now I'm going to write a protest song or now I'm going to write a love song. I write what I'm meditating on at the moment or chewing on at the moment. And the artist that I love the most, Springsteen, and then early hip hop too, like Public Enemy. Sinead O'Connor was a big one for me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right. Who else? Yeah.
Do you think there's some important connection between that kind of punk aesthetic of Damn the Man and the heartbreak songs that hold your feet to the ground? What is the relationship between those in your mind?
Well, the overlap there is a kind of sorrow, and
Mm.
I feel like God is close to the brokenhearted, and it's out of a sense of heartbreak and sorrow and lament that resistance arises. That space between what could be and what really is, or what should be and what really is. That's a prophetic space, and I think a lot of love songs are about a lot of broken-hearted love songs are about disappointment and disillusionment, and those are very parallel to the disillusionment and disappointment that we see here in the shadow of, empire, in the shadow of unbridled capitalism and the way it affects the lives of the masses, right? I mean, disappointment and heartbreak is the language of poor people. So in that sense, country music is like the language of poor people. Certainly hip hop is born out of oppression and protest music is born out of oppression. I think love songs are born out of a similar kind of heartbreak.
Yeah, Nathan Evans Fox has been reminding us that as long as you're listening to the country that hasn't been taken over by capitalism, you're probably
Yeah.
in the better spot. I want to draw our attention to Minneapolis. So,
Yeah.
the incursion of ICE into everyone's lives up there, but the peaceful resistance that has gathered around singing. Like these
Yeah.
churches are packed, learning how to
Yeah.
sing resistance. The Mardi Gras street bands are doing the same thing
Yeah,
in these various locations around. What are you learning from them? What do you want? What do you want to take from this moment, as challenging as it is, but also inspiring in certain ways?
I love it. I I'm so excited about it. It's the right time. It's the proper response or one of the proper responses. I was looking around, for a while over the last decade or so, thinking, where are the songs? Like where do the songs from faith communities, where are they spilling out into the streets? What's the modern equivalent to the anthems of the civil rights movement? And how is that being galvanized? And I couldn't see it. I felt like there was a dearth of it. Like, I'm sure it was out there somewhere, but I couldn't see it. And even during the Black Lives Matter movement, which I was really deeply involved with, there wasn't a whole lot of singing, and there
Mhm, mhm,
certainly wasn't a whole lot of like spiritual or even, crossover from the church to the pavement. But now there is. And as you pointed out, I'm really excited. I want to be a part of it. One of the things that I do lately is lead events for churches and faith communities, even universities and or rallies or workshops where we sing together songs of love and justice. And some of them are African American spirituals. Some of them are spirituals that turned into civil rights anthems. Some of them are original songs. Some of them are Woody Guthrie songs, Pete Seeger song, right? And
mhm.
yes, this is, when the false dichotomy between the quote unquote sacred and the quote unquote secular or profane is collapsed, and it's collapsed with people singing together. Well, that changes everything. In fact, I am launching a new movement, I guess you could call it. It's certainly moving me, and it's called the Midnight Choir, and it's based on two things: Leonard Cohen's song "Bird on a Wire." It's like a bird on a wire, like a drunk in a midnight choir. I've tried in my own way to be free. So midnight choir from that lyric. And then also when Paul and Silas were in jail, for civil disobedience or disturbing the peace or speaking against the emperor or whatever the hell they were doing, they, uh, they around midnight started singing together, and the earthquake came, and the cell doors were flung open, and their chains fell off, and they walked out.
Yeah.
So Midnight Choir to me is everyone who comes to my shows, who listens to my records, and not just comes to my shows or listens to my records, but anybody who's singing this song that imagines that a better world is possible. And we can sing it into existence together, right? Of course, we're going to need very tangible resources to build it, not just melodies, but melodies are powerful. And when we sing them together, like the Midnight Choir is a collective of people all over the world who believe in justice and proactive love and transformation of the world around us. So I'm really hoping that catches on. Look for that soon. We're going to be putting that out there to the social medias pretty soon.
So everybody that's picking up the beautiful vinyl of Forbidden Hymns on your website, you want to say what the URL is?
Sure. Yeah, it's the website is John Francis O'Mara.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So everybody's picking up your music, joining a show or a midnight choir experience. What's the
you
good
got it.
trouble that you think that people can get into, or that you'd encourage people to think about once they've heard these songs or sung them themselves? What's the next step in terms of moving from inspiration to kind of activism? What do you encourage people to think about?
Yeah, but we can't do it alone. We're not meant to. We're not meant to do this thing called faith alone. We're not meant to do this thing called activism alone. And that's part of what got us into this trouble in the first place is this like sort of blind acceptance of like the myth of the rugged individual, sort of like every man for himself. So be relieved of that fallacy. Be relieved of that notion that you can do it alone because you can't. We can't. I can't. This is a we thing, right? So find the people that are doing it too, because they're around. I mean, even if you're in the burbs, they're around. You'll find them. And, gravitate together, just be in the same space together. If it's warm enough out, or even if it's not warm out, build a bonfire, sit around it, tell stories that are meaningful and create meaning together with your stories, sing your songs, sing other people's songs, white people sing African American songs, white communities sing black songs. Come on. And as an Irish American who I spent a lot of time in Ireland, and I'm a student of Irish music and Irish rebellion. There's such a deep, rich legacy and canon of songs, like Irish rebel songs that are a lot like the ones that I write, that they're like, somehow it's a love song, but somehow it's also a like stop oppressing us song. Find those songs, even if they're not your own, and dig into it, right? I did this thing in Trenton the other day with my dear friend, Pastor Eric Kussman. We did a Songs of Love and Justice event, and a lot of his congregation up there, he's a Lutheran pastor. A
Mhm.
lot of his congregation are Guatemalan, Haitian, Mexican. He has signs on his church door and all over the property saying, "ICE out, ICE not welcome." But they've shown up. ICE has shown up and barged into meetings, and they'll start singing together. So we did this thing there where we all sang these songs together, and um, while it doesn't necessarily move the needle on like legislation, it moves the needle for our spirits. And I also got to say, I think it moves the needle like in the atmosphere somehow. I
Mhm.
mean, songs have a life force of their own, and when we sing them together, right, it displaces things like the lies that are so pervasive in the we breathe.
Yeah. I think that there's a kind of gentle spirit too to the kind of singing that's happening, particularly up in Minneapolis. When
There's
it's
also
a
that, yeah.
thousand people singing "Hold On," it doesn't leave a lot of room for the kind of hate-filled response that otherwise we might fall into. Right?
That's right. I love that.
Um, yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that, right? Because, Rage Against the Machine, right?
Mhm.
They're good for what they do. They're good for what they do. But there's never a dot 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 and like, okay, where's the hope against the machine? And what do we do now? And I did notice that gentle spirit, and because it's disarming. It's dismantles aggression, and and you can't really argue with that kind of you know, peacemaking together. I thought that was wonderful. I'm glad you brought that up.
My 7-year-old spent last year in a school in New Zealand. It's a school that's done a lot of work to incorporate cultural elements, language, etc., of the Maori people in New Zealand. So this school that is, I would say, mostly European descent, has had permission and encouragement to help these kids learn things like the haka.
Oh,
And it is, and it crystallized when those students from that school came to the funeral of a schoolmate of theirs who died during the year, and they did the haka for him between the funeral and the casket being put in the hearse. And it
ooh,
was like
wow.
this moment of there was anger in it. You are screaming against
Mhm.
the enemy of death, but there is also this amazing community connection and love for the student. The family then responds with their own haka back. To this day, I can't think about it without coming to tears. It
That's
is
beautiful.
it
Yeah.
is this moment of where putting our voices together in a certain way can carry us through.
Beautiful. I'm really impressed by that. Singing each other's songs, and,
Singing each other's songs.
something about lamenting together. Walter Brueggemann talks a lot about public lament. It's something that a lot of us have lost, but it sounds like the Maori are teaching people how to do it again.
There's something that they know there, and their
Yeah,
willingness to share it with others is really powerful.
it is. Really is.
As you think about young people that might be coming up into this kind of, you know, culture of artistry as it relates to activism in the world, who do you see? Are there some emerging musicians that you would point people to? And if folks are really just getting started, what are some encouragements that you would have for them as they figure out their craft and they look for a place for it to be seated that will create good trouble in the world?
Yeah. Well, I thought about this question, and the first person that comes to mind is a friend of mine who I toured with over a decade ago, and she's also from Philadelphia, like I am. Carsey Blanton. She's writing some great songs, and you might have seen she was on the one of the flotillas that got abducted in when she was attempting to, with other people, attempting to bring medicine and aid to people in Gaza.
Yeah.
Uh, Carsey Bland, she's got a song called, "Little Flame." I love it. I love that song, and I love a lot of her songs. Also, there's an artist called Chris Matthews. She's, brilliant. Chris is spelled C a lot of Woody Guthrie spirit in there, so check her out. It's a songwriter I've been talking to a lot lately, who's been at it for a good long time like I have, but he's somehow stayed just off the radar in most places. His name is Will Dailey. Will Dailey, he's in Boston, touring musician, songwriter. He's got some brilliant ideas about how to slow this whole thing down called the music industry and reclaim the way people even listen to music. He'll have a listening station at his merch table for his shows where you can hear a song of his that's recorded professionally and all that stuff, and you can only hear it there and then at that moment.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's that's a little window into his whole philosophy about like let's reclaim this practice of playing and listening to music and create spaces for people to do it in a much more humane way. Let the songs live longer in our hearts. Let our hearts live with the songs, longer.
Mhm.
And I love what he's doing. That's Will Dailey. And then see, there's a friend of mine in Nashville called Mondo Sanz. Spelled Saenz, Mondo, and he's a Mexican American from Texas. He's been at it for a very long time. He's a wonderful songwriter, like storytelling songwriter.
Mm.
The thing I love about telling stories in songs is that it sometimes you don't want to um, s start with, like, punching someone in the nose with, sometimes protests can cross the line over into propaganda.
Mhm.
That's not what we're about, you know? So tell stories of, like, veterans returning from Afghanistan. Tell their story and tell the stories of, everyday people because they're the ones that are really in the line of fire of all these, destructive forces that seem so much like they're talking the loudest right now.
Yeah.
One more person, Rebecca Porter. She's kinda local here in Richmond. She came out, she opened a show for me in Richmond, Rebecca Porter. She's wonderful, great singer, great songwriter.
Great. We'll get all links to all those folks so people can find them well after this pops up on all the feeds. Thanks. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with
Cool.
John Francis Samar.
Alright.
Hey, everybody, this is Carl. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at Motown Mission. Since 2005, Motown Mission has helped youth and young adults experience Detroit while they serve together, build community, act justice, and learn to love boldly alongside neighbors across the Motor City. This year, Motown Mission volunteers will have shared over $5 million worth of service and time with the people and communities of Detroit. They invite you to come and see God's restorative work in action. More at motownmission.org. That's motownmission.org. So, Forbidden Hymns is your new album. People can find it now. What is it that you tell people about this particular album? And is it a bit of a different kind of album than the ones you have made in the past?
Well, not really. No, I think it's it's pretty on brand. Strong Wine and Spirits was my first full-length record, and it's got some topical storytelling songs and more deliberate protest kinda songs, like, you know, Bring Out the Box of Tissues, sad love songs, like, really sad, you know?
Be ready.
Which is, that's also an Irish tradition is like, "Let's write the saddest song you've ever heard."
Sure.
And the next record, The Better Angels, a lot the same kind of thing. Forbidden Hymns, what I like to tell people about it is that it simmered for a long time before I released it. Most of it was recorded well over 10 years ago. And in Nashville, Ken Coomer is the producer, and he also plays drums on the record. He's a great producer, great guy, great friend. Hi, Ken, if you see this. He's Wilco's drummer for their first several records and Uncle Tupelo drummer. And then Kenny Vaughn is on that record, and Dave Rowe, who, may he rest in peace, he died,
Mm.
um, a couple years ago, and he played with Johnny Cash and a lot of other people. Some great musicians on the record, guys I played with for a long time, since back when I lived in Nashville, so a solid 15 years now. And
Mhm.
I love making music with them. The production is great, I think. The reason I sat on it for so long, I think this is the interesting part, is that I just wasn't ready to put it out. I went to seminary. I was still touring on breaks and stuff like that, and then I worked for churches for several years, and I still didn't put it out. And there was a lot going on in my life personally that really needed to be dealt with before I could do this. And by the grace of God, we're dealing with it. But that really just opens it up, for me to finally release the record. My right-hand man is a guy named Carlito Emmons. He's like a creative director for the Midnight Choir and for my music, and he was, like, almost single-handedly, like, took, like, the defibrillator and just like,
Nice job,
"Eh,
Carlino.
yeah, man. Thank you. Absolutely. Great job." So with that, and then I got a team together of people to put it out. It felt like the time was right. Right around the time that like people started, like the book bans started, the erasure of Black history started, not started, but restarted.
A
And
new chapter, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I thought, you know what? It's time to unshackle this thing that has felt forbidden to me for a long time, especially at a moment where truths and history and very important pieces of our identities are literally being banned and forbidden.
Pulling down the posters in Philadelphia about
Yeah.
slavery.
Yeah. Shout out to my friends in Philly, Ali Dilworth and some others up there that created a huge banner. This is a good example of good trouble. I don't know if they were singing while they did it, but I hope they were. They put a huge banner where the historical placard used to be.
Mm.
And I think it said like, dirty business of.
If you take down the official version, the unofficial version will reappear, and you might
That's
not
right.
like it even more.
Yeah, and, come on, I mean, they can take down the signs and, like, censor the museums and things like that, but you can't erase people's lived memory. But forbidden hymns, there's a song on there that I like to tell people about that I wrote with John Carter Cash, and
Mm.
he's the son of Johnny and June. We've been friends for a very long time, and he produced my last record. We wrote that song, "No One Gets Out of Here Alive," and it's a very meaningful song for me and for him. Sentiments in it and lyrics in it are drawn from things that he told me about, the last words of his father to him. And it's a song about being passionate about the moments that we have and being intentional about telling the people in our lives how much we love them and expressing that to them in other ways too, while we still can, while we still have time. And, I play that song almost every show and save it to the end because people start crying and
Mm.
come up to me after the show and tell me about how their parent or loved one had died recently and how cathartic the song is for them. And like people all over Germany, I was seeing people crying, and I'm not sure if Germans are known for crying publicly,
Yeah,
but
right.
no one gets out of here alive. That's the song I really want people to listen to first. But do whatever you want.
Just listen.
Just listen to it, please.
You describe the album this way when people ask why forbidden, why are you using this term forbidden? And I love a couple of the quotes that you have here. Why forbidden? Look around. The social and political landscape has taken a very dark and ugly turn. Truth, beauty, and conscience are being legislated into silence, banned, and literally forbidden. The soul of America and the very soul of humanity is at stake. Many among us are being made to fear raising our voices, but we believe that a world full of empathy, justice, dignity, and love is possible, and that will not be silenced. That is a vision that Zoe on campus tries to nurture, plant, remind people of whenever there are young adults on campuses that are unfriendly to downright antagonistic to that kind of living. We find it very important to let people know we will not
Mhm.
be silenced on this call to live with empathy and justice.
That's wonderful. And back to what you were saying before, that picture that you reminded us of the people in Minneapolis who were singing together, thousands of them, but singing softly and gently, "Hold on." I mean,
Mhm.
that I'm gonna take that with me. I'm so glad I met you, man. I'm so glad I found you guys. We found each other. Thanks to Brian
Yeah, shout out to
McLaren.
Brian McLaren for making an
Yeah,
introduction. Thank you
and
for all of your creative work. And if people want to follow you, catch you at a show, where are some places where they need to see what's going on?
well, let's see. We're organizing the tour right now for 2026. Going to be playing in Europe a lot, back in Ireland, Switzerland, some other points, some other countries. The next time I play, I'm playing in Madison, Wisconsin on April 24th. You can find information about that on my website. And I'll be playing in Detroit as soon as you and I organize organize a concert and put it on the
Perfect.
calendar.
Perfect.
I'll be there.
Well, looking forward to that. Detroit's got a great history, and we are surrounded by, everybody is somebody's cousin who used to play in the Snake Pit down at Hitsville.
Oh,
A
cool.
really cool tradition and following that Motown music scene. Jack White coming out of Southwest Detroit, a couple blocks from
Yeah,
where I am now, and
yeah.
and all of that. So we just, yeah, we that's why our Motor City Hymns project with our local campus ministry live into that heritage. Motor City Hymns is just, we're trying to help students who are coming out of like the music programs at these local colleges.
Yeah.
And, in the past, the pitch for spring break has been come, leave all your, musical equipment back home, pick up a paintbrush and do some construction work on a house that you're not very good at.
Yeah.
We started to say, well, why aren't we using that time for something different? And what if we helped those weeks, whether at some of the local studios here in Southeast Michigan or on some trips down to Nashville, became workshops for new songs that could be used in faith communities that are, being fleshed out by these students, recorded, performed, written. Last year, it was a completely student led production of a EP, Nick Smalls and his crew, and other times, and we're backed up. We've got two or three recordings that we still need to mix and master. Really.
Cool.
And this year, our gathering in Nashville is going to be a newly kind of partnered with Zoe and the local campus ministries that are participating. So Nashville Canterbury and Lindsay Kelly and Motor City Hymns are coming down. And this is our invitation. If you're hearing this and you think that March 19th through the 22nd in Nashville, Tennessee would be an interesting time for some of your young adult creative students, poets, musicians, singers, even graphic artists that can help us get a new album out. We'd love to see you there. You can find more at zoeoncampus.org.
That's
John
so
Francis
cool.
O'Mara, thank you for being part of this. We really appreciate it.
Can I show them the album cover?
Yeah, please do. We've got one on the way. It'll be part of our growing collection.
There we go.
Forbidden
There she
Hymns.
is. There's the
Yeah, perfect.
Forbidden Hymns, baby.
Get your copy today.
Hey,
And
thanks so much for having
enjoy.
me.
Yep. Thanks. And thanks for everybody watching and listening. And watch for this on the podcast, YouTube, and Instagram feeds as well. See you later, everybody. Get into some good trouble.
Peace.
Peace.